G'day and welcome to the Moon Man podcast. It is Monday, the 26th of July, and it's a different show today because it's only myself, Lawrence Mooney.
And me, Brendo, filling in for Paige. Jess was unfortunately unwell and did the right thing, stayed home.
She has a little tickle in her throat and a bit of a raised temperature, so she's going to get the test, which in Australia is still a swab of both nostrils now and the back of your throat, unlike in China, where they swab your anus.
Anal swab.
Because apparently COVID is present in your fecal matter and is more likely to give a 100% test if you get an anal swab. And if you started doing that in this country, there would be no one queuing at the Fairfield Showground.
There'd be some people.
But if it was a mobile test still, do you have to hang your butt out the window?
Good one.
And someone has to swab you whilst you're kneeling on the driver's seat.
Yeah. And good idea too. I mean, we've had 3 orifices already explored. Throw another in the mix. Just get another one brewing.
Apparently they're using a really large swab and the doctors are wearing it. So
like a chimney sweeper's sweep.
Anyway, let's get on with it. The weekend had some highs, had some lows, of course. I was surprised at the volume of protesters. I'm sure it took everybody by surprise.
Too many.
4,000.
Oh, and
plus.
then some.
Yes, it was absolutely huge. Everyone aghast at what that could mean for Sydney. Protesting against lockdown, counterintuitive, might make the lockdown go for another couple of months.
You reckon?
Because that might be a super spreading event.
Yeah, fair.
Of course, these are people that weren't wearing masks, probably unlikely to be vaccinated, wouldn't be checking in anywhere. You can't check in at a protest. And so we won't know exactly how that is impacted on us until...
It's the morons that come out first, isn't it? They masquerading as disenfranchised, and some of them were, but many of them
That's the nature of the mob, though. Once you get 4,000 plus people, everyone behaves at the lowest common denominator. Thus, you get a man throwing cut lunches at a police horse. Mind you, as it turns out, he may not have contacted the horse, may not have punched Tobruk. Tobruk may have taken a fall in the first, I reckon.
He did.
The fix was in.
Yeah.
Good money was on Tobruk. And just went, whoa, the mouth guard's out, the spit.
Sorry, guys. HIA. I'm probably out for the day here.
But the Olympics are on. Don't know whether you've heard of them. That started Friday night. And some interesting things happened over the weekend. We have got gold, and congratulations to our 4x100 girls freestyle. It was an awesome win, smashed the world record, as we just heard speaking to Joanna Griggs. But I love Bruce McAvaney because Bruce gets enthusiastic. He's got to get enthusiastic about anything. And so the athletes were coming into the stadium after the lighting of the cauldron by Naomi Osaka. And Bruce, I've never heard a man get more enthusiastic about people entering a stadium.
Greece! Girisha!
Guys, this was the bit that we thought would be different tonight. Not so many athletes, no one really in the crowd. So this is going to be fascinating to see how this plays out.
Fascinating.
Oh, it's going to be fascinating. It's going to be fascinating.
Now, I didn't watch it, Moon, but tell me, did it transpire like this? Did they walk into the stadium? Did
Correct.
they do a lap of the stadium?
Correct.
And did they then leave the stadium?
Fascinating. That is fascinating how it works. And then the Australian team enters and Bruce can barely contain himself.
Australia!
Well, we've waited a long time, like everybody else, and have a look how strong that team looks.
Well, yeah, you would hope they were strong. They're professional athletes. It would be very surprising if they were weak and
Look
feeble.
how strong they look.
A few Zimmer frames in the team, wasn't expecting that.
They've been the Australian Institute of Sports or trained. They've been privy to the greatest diet and sports medicine and training regimes. I hope they look strong.
Thanks for the news flash.
Oh, they look strong. But, of course, the Canadians have put their foot right in it. You're a basketball fan, Brendo. Run us through this one.
Yes, indeed. A couple of the flag bearers, of course, Kate Campbell and Paddy Mills. Paddy Mills, who you would know as the captain of the Boomers.
Scored 25 points last night in our win over Nigeria.
Yes, indeed. Well, these Canadian commentators could not pick him out of a lineup.
And you know what? I think they had two women carry the flag. Kate Campbell, the swimmer, and Patty Mills, the basketball player. So there you go. Question answered.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it.
That is not how you do it. That is a man.
That's how you get gender wrong. Patty Mills, Canada, is a man. Or a big, beautiful woman. Whatever you want. We are joined this morning by Seb Costello, our current affair correspondent, great reporter on what is this show's favourite show on television. Last week, Seb aired an interview with Gabby Greco following the death of Jeffrey Edelston last month, her former partner. She brought up a fight with his ex-wife, Bryn Edelston, and it turns out that I am right in the middle of this marriage breakdown. Seb joins us this morning to tell us all about it. Good morning to you, Seb.
Morning, Lawrence. I've covered some big stories. The wedding of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, the funeral of Muhammad Ali. But when these words came out of Gabby Greco's mouth, that you were in the middle of the feud between her and fellow Jeffrey Edelston, ex-Bryn Edelston, well, I knew this was a bombshell that the Triple M faithful had to hear. Just a little background to those.
Yes, please give us a bit of background.
Yes. Well, Jeffrey Edelston, probably the definition of colourful character. And he was really big in this city in the 80s. He owned the Sydney Swans. He had a string of medical practices around the suburbs. And
so for a lot of people that don't know who he is or how he got his fortune, if you go to a bulk billing medical clinic where there's 10 doors and a doctor behind each one, he started those. But he started them with, chandeliers and grand pianos and big white staircases. And basically it was like, come in, get a prescription, get out.
Yes.
And so he started that and became uber rich. Back to you, Seb.
Well, he was worth as much as $100 million at one stage. But in later years, Lawrence, let's be honest, he was probably best known for his equally colourful and perhaps physically similar-looking ex-wives.
Yes, he loved a big-breasted, brassy blonde.
Yeah.
And that's not putting it
those are facts.
too lightly.
Yeah,
They're facts.
Yeah, true. More facts. Bryn Edelston was the woman he married in 2009 in Australia's most expensive wedding ever. Had cameos from Jason Alexander, the actor who played George Costanza in Seinfeld. And Fran Drescher was there too, the nanny. Then a few years later, he married another American, Gabby Greco. Now, since he died, there's been a lot of questions as to whether he left any money, who will get it. And so we interviewed Gabby Greco, who is legally his widow, on A Current Affair a few days ago. Australia tuned in big numbers, Lawrence, but there was something that we couldn't get to air on the night. We had to review it further. It went through standards and practices at Channel 9, and it is the bitterness of the feud between the two ex-wives, Gabby v. Bryn. And there's another bombshell.
Oh, no.
The reason that they will never reconcile is partly Moon Man's fault, and we'll explain why in a moment. But first, take a listen to this. This is Gabby explaining a televised incident that was the point of no return between these two women and why they will never, ever make up.
Oh, okay.
I wrote a really long apology. I said, you know what? I understand now. Being new to a different country, whether I like you or not, I shouldn't have judged you. And she literally on TV right after that threw a drink in my face, like at my picture. You would think if she was such a kind person that she would say, you know what, Gabby, I accept your apology. So she left it purposely like that. Like she used my apology as an opportunity to go on TV and throw a drink in my face. So she's an opportunist, but not so good at it.
And who armed Bryn Edelston with that drink, Seb Costello?
Well, you know very well that Sydney and Australia are about to be reminded that this incident that destroyed a friendship between two women took place on the ABC's Dirty Laundry program hosted by Lawrence Mooney. Take a listen.
What is tonight's Dirty Laundry Live after party cocktail?
I have it right here. It's called the Bedazzler. It's 1 part glitz, 1 part glamour, with a celebrity splash of charm and served in a double D cup.
Yeah.
And then you just take it and throw it in the face of your ex's girlfriend.
Excellent. Thanks, Bryn.
A bit of Venga Boys as well. Dirty Laundry had it all, didn't it?
Well, we used to have an after party, and so we'd invite a celebrity along to create a cocktail, a joke cocktail. And on that occasion, Bryn, you can see that online, that footage. She had a poster of Gabby Greco behind her and threw the drink in Gabby's poster face.
No, you just don't get to explain this away as a
Whoa.
light piece of editorial. This has destroyed a relationship. Have a listen to how Gabby described Bryn to a current affair a few days ago.
She acts like a loser, honestly. Like, who wants to keep a deceased man's name that has remarried? I mean, you got to be a pretty big loser.
So not only...
Lawrence, explain yourself.
So I feel like I've created a wedge between Gabby Greco and Jeffrey because of exacerbating the animus between those two women, and have then played a part in the marriage breakdown and possibly his premature death.
You killed Jeffrey Edelston, essentially.
Hang on, I'm getting this down. This is a good story.
Yeah.
Lawrence Mooney
Killed Jeffrey Edelston, but not Jeffrey Epstein. We have some Gabby Greco extras from that interview because Gabby was a colourful character, is a colourful character herself. You learned some interesting things about Gabby in this interview, Seb.
Well, I certainly did. I'm not getting you off the hook. I think maybe you should be the mediator between these two women and try and bring them together on Sydney's Triple M. But before we leave this topic...
Maybe I should.
Yeah. Gabby was quite infamous for it was an artistic display that she took back in 2014, walking through the streets of Melbourne without any clothes on.
With a green wig on.
You've watched the video, have you, Lawrence?
Only because I love green wigs, Seb.
Well, anyway, I asked her why she did that and whether she had any regrets.
The nude walk actually really helped because I've had social anxiety my whole life. So the fact that I was able to go to Hungry Jack's nude, like, good on me. Like, I don't really care what people say about that.
I mean, there's nothing new in that. People have been going to Hungry Jack's nude for years.
I guess the big question is, does she love cheese on her Whopper? Seb Costello from Current Affair. Thank you very much. You can find Seb on the greatest show on television every weeknight at 7 p.m.
Oh, Current Affair. Thanks, Seb.
You're a home wrecker, Lawrence. Thank you very much.
We're being guided through this pandemic and latest outbreak by the great Gladys Berejiklian, Chief Health Officer Kerry Chant, and, of course, the thin blue line that protects us, the New South Wales Police Force. They have come knocking on my door, of course. I contravened a public health order and paid me $1,000.
You copped your whack?
What an idiot. I've paid my fine when I could have just hit the streets, punched a horse and run away. I'm a fool. What a goose.
The mind boggles.
But we applaud all of our frontline workers and particularly the police because the rules need to be enforced, as was witnessed on the weekend. And leading them up, of course, is Mick Fuller. But Gary Warboys has stood in and he's doing a lot of the press conferences. And he's a terrific bloke, Assistant Commissioner Gary Warboys.
He's your favourite policeman right now.
I love him.
Why do you love him so much?
I love his approach because there's a humanitarian side to him that says the police are there to help and to protect, but I'm not going to put up with a load of nonsense. He referred to the behaviour on the weekend as filthy behaviour.
Nice.
And I reckon that kind of gets it, makes it germy and untoward.
Absolutely.
His choice of words are good, but he looks like a man who's a little bit world-wearied by the whole thing. And I do worry for him because there's a level of exasperation about Warboys that is delightful. If you didn't hear last week, we've been featuring him a bit on the show. This was him describing a party in an office space.
7 people in a small office suite, birthday cake, alcoholic drinks, birthday food, and a person passed out on the floor.
And he is, I can't believe it.
Not just the birthday cake, birthday food.
So birthday food, which I think Cheezels and Savoys certainly got a tick there. Maybe a bowl of peanuts shared.
Oh,
very bad.
Not at parties these days. Not at parties these days. You can't put peanuts out at parties these days.
Anaphylaxis.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sorry for not even thinking about anaphylactic
You wouldn't
people.
have been invited to that COVID-safe party.
Yesterday, there was another press conference, the daily briefing, and after we'd heard about the numbers and some of the health outcomes, unfortunately, 2 people passed away. Assistant Commissioner Gary Warboys again fronted up to the microphone This time he was revealing, Brendo, something that I didn't know was happening.
Yeah.
And that is people are taking alcohol to beaches and parks and trying to sell it to people who are out there.
Oh, bootlegging.
Walking. There's bootlegging going on out the back of vans. Warboys was furious, but then he went on to describe how some outlets are selling cocktails and cups of alcohol.
And police will continue to work with Crime Stopper reports around businesses that want to draw people out of their houses to sell cocktails, to sell alcohol in plastic cups without lids, which is clearly designed to be consumed on the street.
He was furious. He was bubbling inside.
I loved the pause too. Selling alcohol, the pause, without lids.
Without lids.
No lids.
And what does it say if it hasn't got a lid? It's designed to be consumed on the street, in public, not taken home.
Correct.
No lid
Yeah.
means one thing. Now, if someone came up to me with a big bottle of margaritas and I'm walking through the park and someone said, "Hey, do you want a margarita?"
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Up next, we're going to speak to Sydney's meanest TV critic, Rudy Vanderstone, reviewing the Olympics. My goodness, he's going to be up in arms about it.
My
I'm
feeling
sure.
is he's going to hate it.
You reckon?
Oh, hold on. Where did that come from?
Oh, my goodness. But right now, Sydney's meanest TV reviewer, always a pleasure to have him in studio. Good morning to you, Rudy Vanderstone.
Good morning to you, Brento. To you, Jess, even if you're listening, good on you for staying away from the workplace and getting tested.
Yeah.
And good morning to you, Moon Man. G'day, Rudy. How you going? Pretty good. We're all essential workers, and that's why I'm able to come in here and do my spot.
Use that term loosely around here, essential.
Well, no, I am an essential worker.
You
I unblock what Sydney blocks up.
You get it, man.
Doing a lot of work in the eastern suburbs. A lot of people at home doing a lot of blocking.
I bet. Lockdown is the time to block.
And, of course, you are broadcasters helping entertain Sydney and getting them through this dark time.
Lockdown more like blockdown. Am I right?
Correct.
You get it. Bit of plumbing humour there. What are you...
Bit of plumbing humour. It's like punning too. Anyway.
What are you reviewing today, Rudy?
Like everybody else in the world, I had the Olympics on all day and night over the weekend, and it's strange how invested you can become in something that doesn't really interest you. Who knew that Tunisia even had a swimming team? Well, we do now. The young 18-year-old taking gold in the pool. The opening ceremony did have some beautiful, heart-rending moments. Even for a cynic like me, I agree with the Moon Man. When they started dancing around with blocks of wood, I thought, I'm off to bed here. But then they were piecing something together. I was intrigued, and it was revealed as the Olympic rings that will fly over the stadium. And the wood from the trees was planted during the 1964 Olympic Games.
Beautiful.
All I can say is lucky Dawn Fraser didn't know about those trees. She might have pinched them as well. Anyway, Marta saw me wiping a tear away, and I haven't heard the end of it, Brendo and Moon Man.
No.
Then came the lighting of the cauldron by Naomi Osaka. She's a tennis player.
She is.
Worth $37 million, and she's struggling with some issues at the moment. Maybe don't give her a flaming torch if she's not feeling that happy. Compared to the flaming arrow shot into the cauldron in Barcelona in 1992, Muhammad Ali in 96, or the barbecue emerging from a swimming pool, Sydney 2000, a rich player taking the stairs left me a little cold. Let's move on to some of the new events in the Olympics this year. Skateboarding. I watched the skateboarding on the weekend. Our cities are covered with deterrents for skateboarders on rails, stairs, banisters, curbing in squares, and now it's a sport.
Yeah.
Make up your mind, society. Do you want these yahoos performing a reverse kickflip ollie 360 truck slide or not? And if we're going to put skateboarding in the Olympics, then what next? Tagging, chroming, graffitiing buildings, or train surfing? Jesus Christ. Keep it out of the Olympics and in a half pipe. Really and truly, these Olympic Games have made me reflect on the dignity of the Japanese people and the suffering they have been through as a nation. Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the atomic bomb. Fukushima, the tsunami and the nuclear reactor meltdown. The COVID crisis coming into these Olympic Games. As if these people haven't suffered enough, we decide to send the Sunrise team over there. I would rather an atomic bomb go off in my underpants than having Koshi roll up on my doorstep. Channel 7, have some compassion and bring Koshi home. The Japanese have suffered enough. I hate and I love the Olympics. Goodbye. I like the cut of French President Emmanuel Macron's jib.
Great jib.
Tidy little unit, and he's going out with a woman 20 years his senior.
Who?
His history teacher, who he fell in love with. And he tried to tune her at high school, and she said, no, Emmanuel, you're going to have to wait. And then, because I'm a married woman, she broke up, and then he moved in, and now they're a very happy couple.
Incredible story.
Yeah, it's a great story, but moreover, he's decided to take a stance on anti-vaxxing. Obviously, on the weekend, we saw a massive protest in the city against the lockdown, but also that was fueled by anti-vaxxers and people who are against wearing masks. 4,000 people down there, possibly kicking off a super spreading event in New South Wales. But this is what Macron has said to the French people about anti-vaxxers. I no longer have any intention of sacrificing my life, my time, my freedom, and the adolescence of my daughters, as well as their right to study properly, for those who refuse to be vaccinated. This time, you stay at home, not us. Okay, here, say I. Anti-vaxxers, you don't want to get vaccinated during the pandemic, you stay at home.
Yeah.
He went on to say, in France, those who do not get vaccinated will no longer be able to go to restaurants, cafes, bars, museums. They won't be able to get on airplanes or trains. You stay at home. Alternatively, you'll have to submit a negative test if you want to go to work or go out, but the cost of the test will be on you from now on, €49 a time.
Yeah.
Here, say I.
Yeah.
Macron then announced the vaccination obligation for medical personnel and for those working with fragile people or in the front line beginning September the 15th. Any doctor, nurse or medical personnel who refuse to be vaccinated, you no longer have a job until you get vaccinated.
Oh.
You won't be able to work. We cannot make those who have the civic sense to get vaccinated bear the burden of inconvenience. Now, this, of course, is kicked off in France. They're all about liberty and egalitaire, and this is going to be the decider for the next French election. But he is a man that stood up and said, not vaccinated, you stay home. Can you imagine ScoMo saying that? Oh. Well, no, I can't, because there's not enough vaccines in the country. Got it. I want to know, I know it's a little bit of controversial corner today on Moon Man in the morning. I want to know from you on 133353.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that stance? If you don't get vaccinated, no planes or trains, no bars, cinemas, museums, cafes, restaurants, you stay home.
Personally, great idea, because, I mean, they are the minority, the anti-vaxxers, you'd have to say. So fair, why should I suffer because they don't want to get vaccinated? You mentioned it's kicking off over there. What is the general feel in France?
It is split right down the middle.
Really?
Yeah, and the interesting thing about it, because Macron is kind of like middle of the road, but the extreme left and the extreme right have joined together to say, you're being prescriptive, this is fascism, you're telling people what to do, what's next, and they've used this whole kind of like, you're becoming a dictator.
The one time France employs a bit of hardline politics and people explode.
So it's really interesting, but I reckon he's onto something. If you don't get vaccinated, you stay home.
I agree.
We are in new territory here. We're guiding ourselves through uncharted waters. It's unprecedented, and it's time that we took a stance on this stuff. Those deals, 4,000 people, fired up by anti-vaxxers as well as people who, want to get back to work. I understand that. But really and truly, we need to take a bit of a hard line on this stuff. So 133353, do you agree with Emmanuel Macron?
Yeah.
We've had some extreme calls from either end saying what people would like to do with anti-vaxxers, and anti-vaxxers calling in saying what they'd like to do to us.
Noted.
No,
duly noted. We won't put those to air, but we have taken that on board.
We're putting the very even-minded Tony to air, first of all. Good morning to you, Tony.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, thanks. Tell us what your reaction is to the French President Emmanuel Macron's position of anti-vaxxers. You don't get to go on planes, trains or automobiles, and in some cases you lose your job.
Firstly, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm a data-driven person according to the situation. But in terms of what Macron has said, it's nice to have the black and white certainty of what he said. It makes us feel good. It confirms our biases and it reinforces our individual situations and beliefs. But it's far more nuanced than that, because we know that the vaccines don't stop the transmission of the spread completely. And the worry that we have, and I don't disagree with the stay-at-home part, but in terms of vaccine passports, that is off the agenda. That is a distinct loss of our civil liberties that will be very difficult to get back once they're
So
in.
you're against the passport. You can understand, part of the sentiment. And you're right, when somebody does go black or white, it does give you a bit of comfort in these situations.
That's right.
Yeah, it does confirm your biases. Thank you very much, Tony. Tell us what you think, Cole.
Yeah, look, I think you should get it. One, and because the reason is you're losing your freedoms, right? As simple as that. We're all losing freedoms. The poor people that went in the protest, the people in nursing homes, you think about them. They saw the last pandemic, people in nursing homes. They're stuck in there for 6 months last year.
Yeah, that was bad.
No freedoms, no rights. And now they're stuck in there again.
Basically, in terms of Emmanuel Macron, the French president's opinion that you get vaccinated or you stay home, where do you stand on that?
Oh, you got to get vaccinated. You got to get vaccinated. It's madness sitting at home. We're meant to live. We're supposed to be out there.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be enjoying the outdoors.
Let's knock this thing on the head, Cole. Good morning, Wayne.
Morning, guy. Love your work, guys. I totally agree with that French president, mate. I can't believe what these absolute morons did on the weekend. They actually have jeopardised the rest of New South Wales by their actions.
Yes.
Nothing. It's just totally stupid. Like, why is it so hard for these idiots, absolute morons, not to do the right thing and absolutely screw it up for the rest of this state?
Well, there's so much propaganda going on about the vaccine and vaccinations online that these anti-vaxxers are reading, spurious reports and then just going, well, I'm not getting it.
Yeah, but those people are actually, they're taking it all on board. And because of, like, the media and the internet and all that, they're just making it worse. Why not just do the right thing in the first place? Then we can all get on with our jobs and support our families and support the country. Like, they should be grateful that they're living in Australia.
Absolutely. Here, Wayne.
Well said, Wayne.
Let's get vaccinated, let's do it, and let's get back to normal life. Very shortly, we're crossing to former Prime Minister Malcolm Bligh-Turnbull to find out what a rich guy reckons. On Mondays, the former Prime Minister dropped by to brighten up Sydney's start to the working week. Malcolm Bligh-Turnbull, knifed by ScoMo, and he just won't disappear. He loves to have a chat, and we're joined by him every Monday to tell us what a rich guy reckons.
Hello, this is Malcolm Turnbull, and welcome to What a Rich Guy Reckons. Hello, it's your former Prime Minister Malcolm Bligh-Turnbull speaking, and welcome to another instalment of What a Rich Guy Reckons. I had a wonderful day yesterday up at the Piper in isolation. Lucy and I treated ourselves to a lockdown treat of Chateau Lafite Rothschild 1986. That's worth a cool 10k a bottle, and it was absolutely marvellous. I can tell you something for nothing. Jimmy didn't bring it. No, my personal sommelier, Marcel, brought it upstairs from the cellar. God, I love being rich. It makes me tingle with excitement. So Luce and I settled in for a weekend in front of the Olympics. Yesterday we were treated to the canoe slalom women's kayak. I was ecstatic. Jessica Fox outdid herself on the slalom course. I was yelling, she's just like me, Luce, when I'm kayaking on the harbour. Sure, there's no whitewater on the harbour and I don't have to paddle upstream, but just like me. I was a little confused that they call it canoe slalom women's K1 kayak. It's either a canoe or a kayak. But every cloud has a silver lining. At least I got to say my favourite word in the English language, kayak, a lot of times yesterday. Remember, kayak's the only word that you can say and leave your mouth open for the whole word. Come on, indulge me. From your car or your home office or from your bed, wherever you are, on the count of three, we'll say kayak together. Mouths open. 1, 2, 3. Kayak. Oh, it's its own reward. Good on you, Sydney, and keep going, Jessica Fox. Just before I go, I'd like to quickly suggest, along with the 4 new sports of surfing, sport climbing, skateboarding and karate, why don't they introduce competitive banking or share trading? Like a triathlon, go for a little run, do some kayaking, and invest for an hour. The fastest and richest wins. It's easy. Well, that's what a rich guy reckons. Good on you. Bye now.
In 30 seconds' time, Moon will cart the Sydney COVID protesters over the weekend. You should cart that horse.
Well, as it turns out, it wasn't a punch to the horse's face. And so Tobruk was just milking it for all it was worth.
Tobruk.
We've gone to the slow-mo Tobruk, and you know how you can get a yellow card now for diving.
Oh, straight red for me.
Yellow card to
straight red for mine. Get out of here, Tobruk.
Time for Moonman to be the arbiter of what's right and wrong with the world. Yes, strap in for You Can't Do That.
It's Monday, and like the COVID-19 virus, or the variant, as I like to call it, Brendo, the can'ts are running amok. So it is time to get a can'ting. And the king of can'ts this morning is the man who appeared to, allegedly, punch the police horse Tobruk. Or did he? That's the big question. We've seen it from many angles. When there's 4,000 other reptiles out on the streets of Sydney creating what could become a massive super spreader event, that's the way to distinguish yourself as the scaliest of all reptiles. Get in a stoush with a defenceless animal. The people, that's when the tide of public opinion became a tsunami of absolute disgust. The people of Sydney were already aghast that so many people could not care less about this disease, that they gathered in such numbers, maskless and in close proximity, then step up to the plate a man wearing the hairdo of the last Shogun warrior, who appears, or did he, to snot a horse. Mate, you can't expect anything other than a universal thumbs down. Shogun warrior. You can't. The alleged equine assailant was wearing a T-shirt that read free speech in capitals, and then in lowercase beneath that is more important than your feelings. It's very interesting. Free speech is more important than your feelings. Well, today the whole of Australia couldn't concur more wholeheartedly with you, champion, because from Geraldton to Lord Howe Island, there wouldn't be a person that doesn't think your actions were reprehensible. Being part of the protest, A, and B, getting in a punch-up with a horse. You should thank your lucky stars the horse didn't step up to the plate and react in kind, but we all wish that it would have. You can't punch a pony, knuckle a nag, biff a bronco, pummel a palomino, clout a colt, or get in a stoush with a steed. Anything to add there?
No, I think you covered literally all of them.
Reptilius horse puncher or pusher or slapper. You can't. Charges of animal cruelty have been laid against this bloke, and we'll watch this space with keen interest. You may well be canted to the letter of the law, but today in the court of can'ts, let me bring down the gavel, mate. You can't punch, shove, or shadow box animals. Horse puncher. You can't. And that's You Can't Do That this morning, Brenda.
I mean, we're fine when we're whipping the hell out of them to the line at Randwick.
Oh, if it's a tiny man wearing silk pyjamas, that's okay.
But don't push it in the mush. Absolutely not.
That's it for today's podcast. We'll be back with a brand new You Can't tomorrow. For more of the show, you can catch us live on the radio from 6 a.m. on Sydney's 104.9
Triple M.